Hey, hi, hello. My name is Emily, and thanks so much for hanging out with us on the Today Needs You podcast. This is where we have the chance to chat about all the things. I promise you we're going to tackle them all. I'm super pumped to hear from Isabelle on today's episode, so let's dive in together.
Hi, guys. My name is Isabelle Cover. I'm really excited to be back on the Today Needs You podcast. If you did not listen to my last episode, I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Isabelle Covert. As I said, I go to Westlake High School. I'm a sophomore. I play soccer and I'm an FCA leader. If you don't know what FCA is, it's a club, stands for Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we get to meet during the school day for lunches. We host different events and just bring people together through Christ. So it's really cool. So on today's episode, I put up a poll on my Instagram, and then I think it was on the All the Things Instagram too, where people could ask questions, just kind of any questions they wanted about God or just like school or anything. And I'm going to answer some of these questions today. I want to just start out by saying I am not like qualified maybe to answer some of these questions at all, because I am literally just a high school student. So don't necessarily think that I know everything that I'm talking about. I just want to share some of my opinions and experiences on some of these questions. So let's get started. Okay. One of the first questions is, what do you recommend for staying consistent with reading the Bible? So for me personally, it is really, really hard for me to sit down and just read the Bible. Like really hard, because it's kind of hard to read sometimes. There's always like weird names and stuff, and it just like gets really confusing. So what I like to do is like kind of break it up into different study plans in a way. So I'll kind of like pick a book that I want to read, or I'll get like a Bible study and read the Bible based on that Bible study, if that makes sense. So like, for example, if I'm reading a Bible study and it references the book of Jeremiah, then maybe I'll go into my Bible and read the book of Jeremiah and take it into context through the Bible study. So I'm not having to like decipher all of these words and all these different meanings just on my own. So that really helps me to stay consistent with it, because I think the hardest thing for consistency with reading the Bible is the fact that it can just be really confusing and like hard to do. So I like to break it up and kind of give myself a plan to make it like more enjoyable and more understandable for myself. Okay. The next question, how do you balance school, work, and making time for God? This is a really tough one, because high school students were busy. Like there's a lot going on. We have a lot of schoolwork, especially second semester, like so much schoolwork. And I think the best way that I kind of balance all these things, especially making time for God, is I incorporate God into everything that I'm doing, or at least I try my best to. And that's really hard to do sometimes. But I think the easiest way to make sure that everything is being kind of balanced out equally is by incorporating God into all of the things that I'm doing. Which, what I mean by that is, let's say like I have a soccer game. Instead of like feeling really stressed about my soccer game, I'll go to God about it and pray about it. And that's kind of me spending time with God while I'm preparing for my game, if that makes sense. Same thing with like school, if I have a big test, or just kind of making sure that like God is the center of my life and everything else I do revolves around that, really helps me to make sure that I'm maintaining my relationship with Him while keeping my other priorities straight. Okay. Another one is, what is your favorite Bible verse? So I actually have a couple. I have them taped up on my mirror. I write them on little sticky notes and put them on my mirror. So my first one that I really love is 1 John 4:19. It says, "We love because He first loved us." I really like that verse because it just like kind of is a good reminder that we're called to love everyone despite all of our differences, and the reason why we're supposed to do that. Okay, my next second favorite is Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This honestly might be my favorite Bible verse. It really just kind of puts in perspective that like we don't need to worry about what God has in store for us because he already has it planned out. It's not up to us to stress about it. And obviously it is a stressful subject, not knowing what's in your future, but it's kind of just a good, like, calm reassurance that God has your back and he knows what is going to happen to you. He has a plan for you. Okay. Let's look. Oh, this is a good question. How do you try not to gossip when you're with a big group of girls? This is a really good question. And this is really a hard question to answer because I'll be honest, I mess up sometimes. I definitely struggle with gossip. Definitely have in the past. I've gotten better for sure. But that's a hard thing to do when you're with a big group of people who maybe aren't like-minded. Like I talked about this in my last podcast episode. This is why it's so important to surround yourself with like-minded people. So that way, if the people around you aren't gossiping, you're obviously not going to be tempted to gossip. But if you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't like-minded and they're all gossiping and talking about another girl or whoever, it's going to be a lot harder to keep it to yourself. But when ending up in a situation like this, when you are with a group of girls gossiping, I personally kind of just try and take myself out of the conversation. And I don't mean like walk away, but I just kind of don't add into it. Like just kind of let other people say what they want to say, but just don't necessarily add into it. That's my biggest piece of advice for that. Okay. This is another good one. Oh, I like this one. If you could do one act of service for the rest of your life, what would you do? This is such a good question. I think act of service, I would say just like, okay, I love like working with kids. Like I want to work with kids when I'm older. So I would do something like volunteering with kids or like kids who like aren't as privileged or maybe live in more like rural communities and stuff. Cause that is just something that really brings me joy. Okay. Another one. What is your favorite attribute about God and why? I really like this question. My favorite attribute about God, probably the fact that he is a forgiving God. I think that that's really hard as humans for us to remember sometimes, that despite anything we do wrong, all the sins that we make, all the mistakes that we make, God's always going to forgive us, which is kind of crazy to think about. And the fact that he also doesn't care about the size of the mistake. Like you could literally make the biggest mistake in the world. You could make the biggest sin in the world and he would still love you and he's still going to forgive you. And I think that's also a good thing to remember as humans, that we are called to forgive no matter how hard it is. Okay. Ways to grow your relationship with the Lord. I think I kind of stated this earlier, but surrounding yourself with like-minded people and incorporating God into everything that you do. Because if you think about it, like if you're playing a sport, or let's say you want to get in better shape for your sport, the way you're going to like get stronger and in better shape is by working at it. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort, but it's the same with your relationship with God. If you incorporate him into a lot of things that you do, then you're going to be working at it more. And it's not going to be easy to like remember to talk to God whenever you need help, or to pray when you go to bed, or, you know, whatever. But it will help you in the long run because it'll grow your relationship with him because you are incorporating him into your daily life and your daily routines. Okay. How do I know when God is answering my prayers or my questions? This is a hard one because sometimes God won't directly answer your prayers, you know? Like if you ask for patience, he might not directly just give you the ability to be patient, but he might instead give you the opportunity to be patient. And I think the best way to know that he's answering your prayers or your questions is to look for those opportunities and not necessarily for the direct solution itself, if you get what I'm saying. Or like if you're asking God to help you be kind, I don't know. He might not necessarily just make you a kind person all of a sudden. He's going to give you an opportunity to be kind, and you have to recognize that opportunity and take it. And that's, I think, kind of one of the best ways to know that he's answering your prayers and he's listening to you. Okay. I think I'll do like 2 more, maybe. How to balance busy day-to-day life and having time for God. This is kind of a similar question to the one before, but it's a really good question. I think making sure that you incorporate him into all that you're doing. Also, I think just setting aside time for God. Like for me, I like to do a little like Bible study and stuff before bed, just because I can get all of my things I need to do out of the way. And so I can really sit down and like focus, because I think sometimes if I do it like in the mornings, I'll just be like stressing that like, oh, I have to make it on time to school, or I have to, get ready by a certain time, whatever. But at the end of the day, I can kind of like calm my mind down and focus on God. So, okay. What sort of habits do you have that have grown your relationship with God? Okay. I think one of my big habits that has really helped me is focusing, like listening to more, personally, listening to more godly music, like worship music and stuff, because like throughout the day, because it's just like a good reminder. I think also just like, I set little like things for myself around like my room and just like my life that are little examples of God in case I ever feel like disconnected. Like I said, I have little Bible verses on my mirror, or like in my backpack, I write little Bible verses on sticky notes and I'll put it like in my folders and stuff. So like throughout the day I can see it for myself, and it just helps me to like know that he's there for me. And that really helps like grow my relationship with him. Also, another way that helps me grow my relationship with him is like sharing his word, like being on this podcast, or if I get to like talk at FCA, like the club that I'm a part of, or even just sharing his word, like with my friends, it really helps me to kind of like learn more myself and teach other people. I think teaching other people is a great way to learn anything. Okay. Sometimes I feel disconnected to my religion. Is there ways of feeling reconnected? This is a really good question. I like this question. I would say if you ever feel like disconnected from God, do you kind of just have to remind yourself that he always is there, no matter what wrong things you're doing, no matter like you could make the biggest sin in the world and feel like, oh, God's not going to take me back. Like he's going to be so mad at me. Like I can't go to him now. I feel really far away from him, whatever, but he's still going to be there for you. You just have to reach out to him and he's still going to be there and he'll still love you no matter what. So I think just keeping that in mind really will help to feel more connected to him, just knowing that he's always going to be there. Okay. What is one of your favorite chapters in the Bible for advice on life? Okay, this is a really good one. I don't necessarily know if I have a favorite chapter or like book in the Bible, but Jeremiah has a lot of good stuff for like just life advice. Also, like the Gospels, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because they tell kind of like the story of Jesus's life all from different perspectives. So it kind of gives you like a lot of different perspectives and ways that you can like resonate with that story. If you may not, like understand it from a certain point of view, you can go read another one and it'll give you a different perspective, which I think is really cool. So those are my favorites. Okay, last one. How has God affected your life? I would say that recently God has been affecting my life by just teaching me lessons and bringing people in and out of my life, no matter how much it hurts or how like difficult it is. But he's just been teaching me in all these different ways. And I think that I've come to like realize what he's doing through this. And it's been really cool and really amazing to see. I wouldn't say I've never had a big like aha moment of like, oh, like Jesus saved me from dying or whatever. But I would just say that through small little things in my life, like I've begun to notice these things, and it's really beginning to like bring me closer to him. And it's really cool to see. So that's kind of all I have for today. I think that was fun being able to see everyone's questions. So if you like that, let us know and maybe we'll do it again, because that was really fun. Okay. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God loves you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you want more from our community, follow us on social media at allthethings.community. We also hang out every day on the Daily Bible Things podcast, and you can check those out in the show notes. Have a great week, and don't forget, today needs you.